So now we're going to work with this. And here's the code for this. Whenever you move an object, a picture box, you're going to have to feed coordinates to your program. So you dimension an X and a Y, you know, and then of course, normally it's default to 0, but of course you want a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that. I find 2 to be a nice smooth scroll, if that's a term you want to use for your object to slide around on a screen. You could go 5, you could go 10, but you'll see it jumping dramatically when you start increasing that number. And that's not really necessary. Okay, be direct, that's bold direction. And right now, we don't assign that anything because the program will, depending on which direction we go later, will feed a number into that. Ball time, that's in thousandths of a second, the delay, the timer delay. Count is our master counter. You know, I call it the heavy duty counter. It's used extensively to animate our ball. Ball moves is a counter. I explained that already. Lap counter, of course, is another counter. So for every 800 ball moves, we would increase that. So you'll see that a little later. Now the timer, I showed you this earlier. See? Very hard to see. I didn't design the screen, but there's your timer. You don't need to know about it. You're not going to see it. It's invisible, but it's there, okay? So inside the program, it's going to form timer 1 tick. All movements must occur inside of this timer tick subroutine. See? If you notice, these are, and another thing, you don't use for next or do while loops inside your timer tick routine. Trying to do that will meet in failure. The reason is the counter made for those doesn't correspond with the counter in tick. That's why I use an official counter called count, which syncs up with the clock. This is a clock ticking every thousandth of a second, or in our case 5, because we said for 5. Remember, we said ball time, the 5 up here, right? Okay, so when you move your object, you'll find a lot of times using this method, it's going to be involving a simple counter and if-then statements. I know it's a little weird. It's not. It took me a long time to get used to this. So another thing that's kind of cool how I did this. I could have made a thing. Well, if I could have used for next, I could have gone 0 to 200. You know, for this position here. Let me show you this there. I could have had the ball here and said go from here to here. That could have been one part of the routine. I would have been going positive X, right, increasing X. Then over here, it could have been decrementing the Y, going negative Y up to here. And then I could have gone, not change the Y, but change the X, going negative X, going to here. And then this one would have been no change in X, but it would have been a change in a positive Y, right? And that's essentially what I'm doing, but I do it in a little bit different of a way. I used an if statement. So if the ball moves is 800, all right, we increased our lap counter. That's the first thing you want to do. You want to do that because it's you want to get that just as it starts to increase the counter. Okay, you don't want to do that somewhere in the middle of this crap. All right, so now another cool thing here is I want to be able to branch. I wanted to get through one section, and then when it gets done there, jump out and go into another section. So for instance, we're going to be moving the ball to right. And the way to do that is our ball has an index called left. Our ball.left and you also have orball.top. Orball.left means it'll move on the X plane. Negatively would be go left. Positively it'll go to the right on the screen. And it uses the top down here. Again, negatively would be on the y-axis would be going up, and then positively would be going down. So that's why when you increment it plus equals, the y, it's going to go down. See how I did this? Now you're wondering, well, how am I getting this 0, 1, 2, or 3? Well, so a really cool way there's a lot of ways I could do that. I could have another counter that goes 0 to 200. When it gets to 200, it changes from a 0 to a 1, and then another one after that from 1 to 2 and all 3 to. That's a little clunky. There's a much more elegant way to do that, and that involves the mod command. So, right here's where we do that. If our counter, right, mod 200 means this. Whenever you take a number and you go mod another number, it's a division. And the mod portion of that is the leftover. Perhaps to get a better idea of how this modding works, I added a little program in here, little code in here. I use an integer I, -10 to 10, and then I'm going to mod it with 2. So what you're doing now when you mod it with 2 is you can develop an even and an odd number. Because if the mod of 2 is 0, you know it's even. And if it's not, it jumps down here and it says it's odd, right? It can't be, it's got to be either end with a 0, divide with a 0 evenly or not. If it doesn't divide evenly, it's going to have a 1, right? That's how the modding works. I'll just show you, run it, and then you'll get the idea. See how it does that? When I run it, -10 modded by 2 is going to be what? It's divided by, it's divisible by, I guess what, -5. So that's going to be even because there's no leftover. But when you divide it by a -9, it's going to have a 1 leftover. See, that's all that is. Well, that's what modding is so cool about. And the rule of thumb is, if you mod it by, say, 3, it'll be every third time that number comes up, like 3, 6, 9, you're going to get a 0. Well, so let's go back to our original problem. When I use the mod here of 200, that means every time our count is divisible by 200 evenly, that it comes out with a 0, we're going to change the direction. So that's why this is essentially going 0 to 200. This is going to be 201 to 400. This will be 401 to 600, and this will be 601 to 800. It's just a more compact way of, and a clever way of making this branch. Make it turn directions. It's going right, it's going up, it's going left, it's going down. It's going right, it's going up, it's going left, it's going down. And that's essentially how this program works. I hope you like this. Like and share, and subscribe if you don't mind, and have a good day.